All right, guys, welcome back to Grow the Earth. And sorry, it's been a while since I uploaded. It has been extremely wet down here in Texas, and it has been extremely hot down here in Texas. And most of those happen on the same day. I guess that God has blessed us so much by letting us being born in Texas that He had to give us something to complain about. And that is when we get a month of almost complete and utter rain, and whenever we hit over 100 degrees with the heat index almost every day. So today I'm coming back to you on an overcast day, which actually feels quite nice and a break from the heat that has happened. And we're going to talk about 10 things that you should only plant in a bed that you're going to be willing to give up to these plants or in pots. Now, some of these are herbs, some of these are vegetables, some of these are flowers. Now the first three things on our list are herbs. And the reason that these are on our list is because, number one, they spread by branching out and by their roots, depending on which one you're talking about. And literally, they will spread out, take over a whole entire bed, and suffocate anything else in that bed. The only way that you can prevent this is to be on top of them and continually, and I mean continually, trim them so that they don't spread. And those first three things are going to be mint, oregano, and thyme. Now, again, like I said, these things spread by not only by leafing out, and where they leaf out to, where they touch, they will root. And then it leafs out and roots again and again and again. And then you go from a little area about this big to pretty much an entire 4x4 bed that is nothing but this herb. Now, this is our oregano plant. This was actually cut out of a much larger area that we had, where basically we started out with a plant half this size, and it took over an area 4x4 very quickly, and it pretty much suffocated out everything else we had in that bed, including some basil. Usually basil is much taller, but this actually got in around it and started trying to climb it and suffocated it out to where it was not receiving the nutrients and the water it needed, and now we have these in a pot. And as you can see, since we've put this in this pot, probably about a month ago, it is trying to escape this pot. Now, oregano is one of those plants that spreads by, of course, leafing out, and where it touches the ground, it will actually put down roots and then continue to spread and continue to spread. Unlike mint, which I actually don't have any mint right now because we've pretty much gotten away from it because it's so invasive, is it actually spreads by roots. So a mint plant, you'll plant, and then the roots will go down. It will send out buds off of those roots that will come up in other areas. We actually had mint in a 4x4 area. We had it fairly contained, and then we noticed that we started having mint sprout up outside of our raised beds. This plant had literally sprouted roots. Those buds off of those roots had gone down down below our 2x10 raised beds and come up in a different area. They had actually come outside of our raised bed and actually into another raised bed that was about 3 foot away. So mint, pretty much you want to keep that in a pot. And thyme spreads the same way that oregano does. And again, you can put these in a raised bed, but you either have to just concede that that's going to be the only thing in that raised bed, or you have to stay on top of it and constantly trim it so that they will not spread. Now, the next plant on my list is one that you may not have even thought of as being kind of invasive, because it is one of the most beloved plants that people want to grow in their garden or have grown in their garden, and that's strawberries. Now, strawberries are one of those plants that it spreads by runners. I have one right here. And as you can see, this little strawberry plant is trying to escape. It's trying to multiply, and it will do that by sending out these little runners right here. And where they touch the ground, this one's already got some roots on it, and they will root, and this is going to be your new strawberry plant. Now, this is wonderful for you guys who want to grow strawberries and have a strawberry patch or have an area that you have conceded to these plants. But for your new time gardeners that are putting one or two of these inside of a raised bed, they may not realize how quickly that these plants can take over a raised bed. Now, again, I say this because I don't hear a lot of people talking about the fact that these things can be kind of invasive, in the fact that you just need to dedicate an area to these guys and let them take over and let them thrive, and you thin them out and you move them to different places, you give them away, whatever it may be. But if you plant one of these plants, it will divide, it will reproduce, and you will have more of these than the one or two that you plant because they're going to spread. Now, this next plant may actually be one that you've never heard of, and it's going to be Malabar spinach. Now, it's touted online as a replacement for spinach, which, if you've grown spinach, you know that we grow spinach here in Texas in the cooler months of the year because as the heat comes on, it will bolt and it will die. So, Malabar spinach seemed like a great way that you can have spinach and not have to deal with having to only grow it in cooler months and so forth like that, because Malabar spinach loves heat. It actually grew exceptionally well. We found out that we didn't care for it so much just because of the qualities of what that leaf had. And so we decided the next year, no, we're not going to grow it again. We didn't enjoy it that much. It wasn't kind of a true exchange for spinach. We'll just grow spinach during the winter and in the spring, and we'll eat that. Well, the problem is it creates these little purple berries. These little purple berries are its seeds. And ours was nice and happy because we fertilized real well. We gave it everything it wanted. And it literally made hundreds, if not thousands, of these little purple seeds. And guess what? Next year in the springtime, I was picking seeds out of this bed with this trellis on it for the first month. And they grow so fast that they were choking out our cucumbers because they grew so fast. And if you weren't out there daily pulling these sprouts, you couldn't get rid of them. Now, for someone who loves Malabar spinach, you'll absolutely be wonderfully set because it is going to reseed itself every year. Now, the next one on our list is one that it doesn't spread, but it is definitely one that when you put it somewhere, that's where it's going to be for pretty much the rest of its existence, and that is asparagus. Now, the reason that asparagus is on this list is because where you plant it is where it's going to be at. And you have to pretty much concede that that is where your asparagus is going to be, and you're not going to grow anything else in that area because, number one, it doesn't like competition. Number two, in your first couple of years after planting your asparagus, you're not supposed to harvest anything from it because you can actually kill the rhizome. So you're going to be into where that plant is going to be at for at least 3 years. And the very last reason why is because it has a very extensive root system and it doesn't do well with transplanting. So if you plan on planting asparagus, pick a spot to where you plan on it being for the rest of its existence. Do not move it. Don't try and move it. More than likely you will kill it. And wait those couple of years before you harvest. That way those plants will be big and beautiful and grow plenty of asparagus for you. Now, the next thing on our list is ginger. Now, ginger is a wonderful spice for especially a bunch of Asian dishes is where you mostly see ginger used. But it has a nasty little problem, and that's because it spreads. Now, ginger is actually a root vegetable. It's a rhizome in some sorts. And basically, you take that rhizome, you plant it in the ground, and it will grow up shoots just like this. And as it gets more sun and as it gets more water, that single rhizome will start growing. And as it grows, it sends up more shoots, and it sends up more shoots. This actually started from 3 pieces of ginger that we put in the ground, and it has grown into this monstrous plant. the thing about ginger is as you want to harvest off of it, you don't have to wait for the plant to die or anything like that. Basically, you dig down, you snap off what you need, and you leave the rest. So, whatever, let's say you plant some ginger and you decide you want to move it. If you leave any part of that rhizome in the ground, it will sprout another plant on that rhizome. So you have to be very, very, very meticulous when you remove this plant from one place to another, because if you leave anything behind, it's going to sprout and it's going to continue to grow. So it's best to be kept in a pot. It's best to keep managed like this. That way, if you don't get everything, you just have more ginger that comes up in that same spot year after year. Now, probably one of the last things that we're going to talk about here today, and that is walking onions or walking garlic. They both have the same problem, and that is, well, first of all, let me post a picture right here of your walking onions, your walking garlic. They start as a single pod as they grow up, and then that splits into 4, 5, or 6, and they lay over. And number one, they take over a lot of area very quickly. And number two is where they will set down their stems, they will grow another plant. Doesn't seem like a bad problem until you try to incorporate these into a relatively small area, and then you have them competing with your other things, your other vegetables, your other flowers, your other food, whatever it may be that you've got planted around them. Now we're on to our flower section of this video, and the first flower is going to be marigolds. Now, if you've watched my short about marigolds and why you should have them in your garden, I'm going to link that right up here above me so that you can get the information you want. But basically, there are a lot of benefits to marigolds in your garden because they act as a pest deterrent. And there's some other things that are there too, so go and watch that video if you want to know why. Now, the reason that they are a problem is because, number one, they spread. The reason that is because marigolds have a very special kind of thing that they can do. So if your marigold is planted in the ground, if that plant leans over and touches the ground, wherever it touches, it will root and it will make a new plant. And they will spread out and they will overcome things. Because number one, they get quite tall. So if you've got something that's shorter in an area where you planted a marigold, it will literally shade it out and outcompete it because these things grow very fast. Now, I thought that I was going to escape some of this by putting these in pots. But I have found that marigolds really love roots. And this plant has actually rooted down through the holes in my pot and has reached into the ground. And this is what I've seen on pretty much every one of these plants that I have put in these pots. Number two, if you put it in the ground, give it some room to spread out so it's not outcompeting your vegetables that you're trying to protect with it. So if you don't put them in the ground and you put them in pots, be prepared for that they're going to need a sizable pot in order to be effective. Now, probably the last thing on our list and another part of our flower family is going to be a Mexican petunia. Now, the reason that these are a problem, number one, they spread. They spread underground. They send up new shoots every year. As you can see behind me, all of this, and there's actually some more over my shoulder here that have kind of spread that way, was started by about 2 or 3 shoots that we got from somebody. And it has grown into this big mass that dies back and comes back every year. And it is, we have it up here in this front flower bed, thankfully, because otherwise this would have pretty much taken over a garden area. Because even though you pull it up out of the ground, the roots that are left behind will shoot up new shoots and more and more and more until it's taken over an area. We haven't had a whole lot of luck by containing it, and we're kind of letting it spread into areas, and then we're going to start trying to deal with trying to tear it back whenever we have to. Now, the reason that these are good to have around is because they are going to be a nice flowering plant to draw in your bees every year, just like the previously mentioned marigold. Whereas a marigold is one of the first things to bloom, this comes on later with a lot of purple blooms that will draw in your bees and keep them in your garden. And these will pretty much flower all the way through summer, and they're going to continue to be an attractant for those bees. So again, Mexican petunias, wherever you plant them, make sure you give them some room. Make sure you have conceded that they are going to be there and they're going to be there for a long time. And if you want to remove them, that you're going to have a hard time removing them. So guys, as always, I thank you for joining me today. If you've seen anything that should be on this list, or maybe you think that some of these things shouldn't be on this list, then comment below. Maybe I'll make a video about what you suggested. And as always, I ask you to pray over your family, pray over your garden, and have a great day.